You're in Baltimore, there's only one question on your mind.
Who the f is Arl Long, bro?
This
Hey yo, who the fuck? Another one. Here we go again. Yo, got some more over here too. And purple. With the black and gold too. Who the fuck is this? Again? Yo, who the fuck is this, yo? Yo, it's like literally everywhere.
This bitch marking it up right now. Look at him. All this time it been you, bro. It been fucking you all over the city.
We linked up with street artist Reed Beemore to ask what they've heard about Arl Long.
It feels like childish in the best of ways. She's a really good graffiti artist.
Could it be? Do they know Arl Long?
Yeah, well, I mean, just what I've heard from the grapevines.
Reedy is everywhere, and I mean everywhere. But who is Arl Long?
The nigga Arl Long, he definitely be everywhere. This nigga, like, is that a big one? Yo, this nigga be everywhere with his little tagging, yo.
Evidently, he was like a witness or something like that to a crime or something like that. I just want to know who the f writing that shit. Like, come on, y'all get pissed off, man.
Yo, what it is, people, we is back. Another day on Keep It G News. And they y'all, we trying to solve a 2-year-old question. Who the F is Arl Long? Everybody trying to figure this out. And why is it that somebody is tagging Arl Long all over the city? I'm talking about y'all from the bus stops to the train stations to the cracks and crevices of the city. Arl Long is tagged everywhere. And it's almost like it happened overnight. You know, we seen like one morning 2 years ago, everybody woke up and just Arl Long was all over the city. And the crazy thing about it, which makes it a folklore, is nobody actually seen anybody write Arl Long. It's like it's just popping up. Like, we don't know where it's coming from. A lot of people got theories. In this video, I'm going to share with y'all my theory, or who I think Arl Long is and why Arl Long is important. Because it get deep. And that's what I found out while doing this video. This Arl Long story is very deep in detail. So deep that I can only give y'all the story. It's a lengthy story. So you're going to have to pay attention, man, because you might miss something that's very important. So I ain't going to talk a whole lot on this video. But I'm going to give y'all a little introduction. Then I'm going to come back in and lay it out for y'all on what y'all ready to hear. Like I said, because it's very deep and it involves a lot of people. You understand? So the question is, who is Arl Long and why is Arl Long important? Climbing up the construction scaffolding on the corner of Preston and Calvert Streets, carrying an aluminum baseball bat, Jose Draquan Morales Jr. delivered a practice message. "I'm going to fucking kill you," he yelled at Warren Lumpkin. It was December 21st, 2006, about a quarter after 10 a.m., according to the police report of the incident. Lumpkin, a pasty, skinny dude with a weak chin and strong hands, scrambled down and then back up the cold steel tubing as Morales swung the blue bat, ditching his heavy work gloves while steadying himself on a narrow wooden plank. Lumpkin pulled a 3-inch buck knife. "Come on down here," Morales yelled from the ground. Lumpkin recalls in a recent interview, You tried to come up here and I'm cutting you," Lumpkin said, he replied. Morales retreated to his pickup and blasted down Preston Street as someone dialed 911. Lumpkin had ratted out his former boss, and somehow Morales knew it. In the 18th month since the alleged attack in Midtown Baltimore, Jose Morales has been arrested 5 more times on charges of passing bad checks, theft, assault, and witness intimidation. The latest charge for another alleged attack on Lumpkin. Morales' right-hand man, Robert Wayne Long, shared many of the same charges, and caught one of his own, 2 for auto theft. Morales' construction business, Mason Unlimited in ABR Construction, petered out with the housing bust, and his spacious Savannah home fell into foreclosure. As usual, Morales' court cases dragged on and on through delay and postponement. 3 current Baltimore City Circuit Court cases against Jose Morales and Robert Long involving the alleged theft of construction equipment and the subsequent alleged assaults and threats against Lumpkin have been easy to overlook. There were no drug sales alleged, no murders, not even an injury. Then on March 24th, Long was found near the railroad tracks at the elbow of South Stricker and Cole Street with at least one bullet lodged in his brain. At that moment, the case against Morales got more complicated, and Long's death may have brought new attention to Morales' 14-year dark career criminal of unsafe construction violations of buildings and zoning codes, theft, assault, drug dealing, and fire setting. When he died, Long was not just a crack junkie and habitual thief. He was not just a sloppy mason with a bald head and a bad attitude. Less than 2 weeks before his untimely death, Long agreed to serve as a witness against Morales. He was, Morales exclaimed on May 28th, trying to sound surprised over the phone a few hours after blowing off his scheduled trial on his pending charges. Of Long's murder, he says, "I don't know nothing about that. He was in a bad neighborhood. Drugs will do it." Lumpkin says Long told everybody, including Morales, that he planned to testify, but Lumpkin says he doesn't think Morales killed Long. He's got no friends, Lumpkin says. Can't get nobody to do nothing for him anymore. Guys, y'all gonna have to pay attention to throughout this whole situation. A guy by the name of Warren Lumpkin, a guy by the name of Terry Morales, which is the most important person in this whole situation, and Arl Long. So, I'm gonna pen it out for y'all just a little bit. Terry Morales owned a business company. Forgot the name of it. You're gonna hear it in the video. And Arl Long and Warren Sumter was his employees. You understand? But what y'all gonna find out about Terry Morales is Terry Morales has another connection to a very well prominent lawyer in Baltimore City. We all know him. If you was in the streets in the early 2000s and before, you know this guy. And it's real ironic now, you can't find no pictures of this guy or nothing. It's like they just wiped him off the world. Very prominent attorney. Wiped off the internet. You can't find any resemblance of him. I'm talking about when you try to click on an article that's attached to him that might have his picture, you get nothing. So like I say, I'm gonna have to paint this picture for y'all, and y'all gonna have to draw the conclusions on your own. But I want y'all to pay attention to everything that's going on. You know, everything that's going on. How many times Tony Morales was actually in trouble, and how he managed to just, kind of walk through the back door. And his connection to this very prominent attorney. Arrested more than 30 times and convicted of 5 felonies since 1994, Jose Morales, 32, is the picture of a successful career criminal. In more than a decade of allegedly threatening people and setting fires, stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of vehicles and construction machinery, and even the identity of a fellow drug dealer, Morales spent less than 24 months in jail and prison, records indicated. Although cops who have dealt with him and people in this old neighborhood whispered that Morales is dangerous and politically wired, close business associates, a neighbor who was a Baltimore City councilman, and his own father professes ignorance of his criminal habits. At a court appearance last July, Morales promised to talk to a reporter in detail, but more recently he says he changed his mind, declining an interview for this article. His lawyer, Stanley Needleman, likewise declines to say much about his client's behavior. Why are you so interested? Morales asked after April court appearance. We're interested because Morales seemed to exemplify what's wrong when city and state regulators, police, and prosecutors are uncurious about triple building collapses, stolen earth movers, arson, drug dealing, and seemingly endless scams. Perhaps because Morales' crime straddled 4 jurisdictions, and because many of his victims have rap sheets of their own. No law enforcement agency, with the apparent exception of a couple cops on regional auto theft team, has made him a priority, and he has developed a reputation for impunity. As of deadline, Morales was at large with a bench warrant issued for his arrest for skipping court. No suspects has been named in Robert Long's murder, but Warren Lumpkin, who has not been contacted by homicide detectives, says Long tried to call him on the night he died and left a phone message 5 days before, claiming that Morales had threatened to bash his head in with a bat. Some colleagues overlook Morales' criminal tendency, at least until recently. He's a young guy. He's a little bit tempered, John Elder, an engineer who has often worked for Morales, said in 2006, shortly after Morales came to city papers' attention for allegedly terrorizing the 200 block of South Chester Street. Elder defended the young contractor, claiming he does responsible work, and that's how I know he's licensed by the Maryland Home Improvement Commission. Both of those claims were false. Elder professed ignorance of Morales' criminal history, just as city officials who had worked for years with Elder during and after his own time as city employee professed ignorance of Elder's criminal history. I've heard some rumors that somebody said Morales has stole some construction equipment. Elder allowed 2 years ago. I'm a little surprised he would steal something like big construction machines. Morales' father says the same. Young Jose moved out of the house right around his 18th birthday, his father says, and he kept catching criminal charges. He was arrested in the city 4 times in 1994 on charges of assault, deadly weapon, malicious destruction, disorderly conduct, and theft. The theft case would eventually stick, costing Morales $176 in restitution and a 1-year jail sentence. But first, Morales will fight the charges in the court for 22 months. Morales was arrested 6 more times in 1995. Charges include theft over 300, several instances, removing a vehicle serial number, arson, malicious burning, malicious destruction, battery, and possession of a deadly weapon intent to injure. On April 19, 1996, Morales began serving his 1-year sentence for the 1994 theft case. He apparently spent all or most of his 1996 in jail. On December 11, 1996, Morales was found guilty of felony theft and sentenced to 5 years in prison, with 3 years and 9 months of that suspended. Morales caught a break, calming in Baltimore, according to Paige Crowder, a former assistant state's attorney for Baltimore City. The strange length of his prison sentence, 1 year, 3 months, and 19 days, indicates that he was sentenced to time served for the new crimes, she says. So for the theft case, plus new guilty pleas on February 21st, 1997 for malicious burning, theft, and malicious destruction, Morales was set free on 2 years of supervised probation. Morales' next arrest was October 28, 1998 for alleged assault with a gun. As a convicted felon, Morales is not allowed to have a gun. As a recent re-entry serving probation, Morales could have seen his probation revoked and his full 5-year sentence restored, but that didn't happen, and the charges were dropped. He was charged again in May 1999 after an altercation with a cop, and again on November 1999 with firing a gun. Again, Morales could have lost his probation and had made to serve his full sentence. Instead, those charges were dropped. Morales remained a free man. In 2000, Morales was indicted on 5 drug-related counts, pleading guilty on June 28, 2001 in Baltimore's County Circuit Court to conspiracy with intent to distribute narcotics. He was sentenced to probation with a urinalysis and other conditions. Despite violating those probation terms twice and skipping court 3 times on a probation violation case, Morales spent only 5 weeks in jail on the charges. Online records indicate he walked out of court in Towson a free man on August 16, 2004. Morales' father says he remembers nothing of his son's early criminal history and knows nothing about any fires. The drugs I heard about, he acknowledged, maybe I was too hard on him. As his son's criminal history blossomed, Morales Sr. economic station steadily improved. In 1996, Morales Sr. bought 245 and 255 South Bethel Street, a 7,000 square foot industrial space 1 block west of Broadway, Enterprise Electric Company. There was no mortgage recorded on a $58,000 purchase price. In 2000, Morales Sr. opened the Arizona Bar and Grill at 25 South Broadway between 2002 and 2007. Undercover police cadets brought alcohol at the bar 3 times, resulting in small fines each time. The Baltimore City Board of Liquors License Commission's investigators' last visit to the place just a couple months after Morales Sr. bought the building for $550,000 is notable. Morales Sr. paid a $400,000 fine for underage drinkers and other violations. The drug charges against the bar were postponed several times, then dismissed on October 18, 2007 when police officers failed to appeal for the hearing. Besides the Arizona, on the afternoon of May 28th, there is a pallet of bricks piled in the front yard. The home was rebuilt brick facet, mostly finished but with gaps here and there around the trim and stairs. The doorbell was broken. A knock sets a small dog barking, and a woman who looks a bit like Barbara Bush, but with the hair of iron gray instead of cotton white, answers. "No, I don't want to talk to you," Mary Morales says. "I really don't want to talk to nobody." "Okay, good day." She closed the door. At first glance, Morrell Park looks like it could be middle class and Clive. The fan-shaped square-mile section of southwest Baltimore straddling I-95 is blessed with an assortment of modest single-family homes with neat yards. DeSoto Park and Carroll Park Golf Course offer inviting green spaces. Camden Yards is a mile and a half jog up Washington Boulevard, Morrell Park's main drag. But the neighborhood has been plagued by crime and grim. There are 11 liquor licenses in the neighborhood, including Good Times, owned and operated by City Council Vice President Edward Riesinger, Democrat 10th District. The bars and their environs are sometimes a site of disorder, as in 2004 when Riesinger got into a fistfight with a drug dealer. The Orioles Nest, number 292, a private gambling club whose members include elected officials and drug dealers, opened in April 2005 at 2930 Washington Boulevard. Foul Nest features November 23, 2005, seemingly immune to police action until it was suddenly shut down in the fall of 2006. Some longtime residents say the problem is political corruption, directly linked to street crime. In fact, Morales Jr. exploits over the past decade have left some people with the impression, whether true or not, he has political ties that makes him untouchable. I heard some people who he had problems with disappeared. A man walking on James Street says, "You can't do what he does with impunity without political connection." He declines to give his name or to elaborate on the supposed political connections. "You have no idea the heartache that this person caused this community," says another resident who asked their name not to be revealed because they fear for their safety. Even some outside the neighborhood say this fear is well-founded. A federal law enforcement officer told City Paper in 2006 that Morales Jr. was suspected of multiple arsons. People in Morrell Park still remember when Morales' house blew up. "It was just a big explosion," says one neighbor of 2825 Carroll Street, which burned spectacularly early one morning in February 2002. Like several others on the street, all of whom declined to give a report of their names, he remembers that the hydrant in front of the house malfunctioned. It was vandalized, another witness claims, necessitating a huge response from the fire department. He remembers that several young people had lived in the home, and none of them were in it when it burned. "It was the worst I've ever seen," another neighbor says. "All I know is I woke up," my son said. "Give me the keys, I'm going to move your car." She says the flames melted some of the steel siding off the house next door. According to land reports, Morales bought the house on a spacious corner lot with a detached garage on July 31st, 1998 for $70,000. He took out $69,900 mortgage and, as his first-time home buyer, received an additional $4,600 low-interest loan from the city's Department of Housing and Community Development to cover closing costs. Both Morales and his sister, Miranda, used the address, according to public records. Neighbors say that between 5 and 8 people seem to live there. There was an abundance of people in and out. A man who lives up the street says, "I stayed far away from them as possible." A source close to the investigation says the fire was ruled arson, though no one was ever charged. Morales' mortgage was paid off by August 2002. He sold the plot, which he now owned free and clear, in 2003 for $30,000. Records show. A new house was built on the site in 2005. In late April, City Paper asked the Baltimore Fire Department to retrieve its records of the fire. Despite repeated phone calls and emails to the department spokesman, Kevin Cartwright, the records was not produced. A captain at the neighborhood fire station says he remembered the blaze but couldn't comment about it. The Carroll Street blaze is not the only one Morales is tied to in the area. In 2004, Nicole O'Brien accused Morales of burning her 1998 Lincoln Navigator, and Morales was arrested. According to the application for the statement of charges that O'Brien filed in Baltimore City District Court, she and Morales had a confrontation over money on June 8th and again on June 12, 2004. He became very aggressive and violent. She contended and spat on the truck's window during the first encounter. During the second, he threatened to have me beat up, my truck blown up, my house blown up, O'Brien wrote. At 1:30 a.m. on June 15, 2004, the Navigator was destroyed by a fire while parked in the 1600 block of Inverness Avenue. Morales was arrested March 18, 2004 on 4 counts: assault, arson, threatening arson, and malicious destruction. Added together, the maximum penalty of the charges totaled 43 years and $45,000 in fines. George Luis Ayres bailed Morales out using the Pigtown house he owned as collateral. He apparently didn't realize at the time that Morales had stolen his identity, bought a house in Pasadena using it, was skipping the mortgage payments, and was soon unloaded at a big profit, sticking Ayres with a capital gain tax liability. Attorney Stanley Needleman defended Morales, getting his bail reduced from $150,000 to $50,000 so Morales could get out of jail after one night. A month later, all the charges were dropped. O'Brien could not be reached for comment, but 2 sources in Morrell Park says she had dated Morales, and that Morales bought a home using her name in Anne Arundel County. Property records show a Nicole K. O'Brien purchased a Glen Burnie ranch house from the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development in 2004 for $109,000. The house sold in mid-05 for $225,000. A second witness listed on O'Brien's charging statement is her brother Patrick. He calls a reporter whose business card was stuck in his door, but like many others whose lives Morales has touched, declines to talk about him. That was in the past, Patrick O'Brien says. Nobody wants anything to happen in the future, know what I mean? Although Morales' notoriety in his home neighborhood seems complete, it isn't. One prominent Morel Park merchant professes no knowledge of Morales. And that's interesting, because his bar, Good Times, stands less than 150 feet from the Morales residence at 2507 James Street. The two properties are nearly back to back. Asked if he knows Morales, City Councilman Eddie Resinger shakes his head no. Maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I heard something about him, he says. Why? What did he do? He did quite a bit, according to court records, but not everybody whose life Jose Morales Jr. touched bothered to go to court. I probably paid him close to $65,000 to $75,000 worth of work, says Michael Costa of Before Design, a company that produced drawings for hundreds of rehabs and rebuilds in Southwest Baltimore. And every lead I gave him, he burned. Costa contends Morales produced fake invoices for material for one job, overcharging by about $6,000. A lot of people he burned. Some are suing. He says by phone in April. I think mine's more criminal. I haven't really proceeded to press charges. In September 2006, a judgment was entered against Morales in the amount of $120,397.86 in favor of XX LLC, a North Charles Street eatery. According to Melvin Kodowski, SX lawyer, Morales collected $70,000 to renovate the building, screwed it up to the point where it was structurally unsound, then abandoned the job. Kodowski, who accidentally defends Morales Sr. Arizona Bar before Liquor License Board, says he doesn't know why XX ownership Philip Quick and Maurice Bloom hired Morales, Mason Unlimited. I asked him, Phil, what did you fall on your head that morning, or what? Kodowski says. There are more judgments in Anne Arundel County, repossessions of $50,000 truck bought in Mario Morales' name, and a leased Caterpillar skid loaded on which Morales' company neglected to make payments. There are several bad check charges as well. Costa says that for a time his phone was ringing off the hook, with people asking where to find Morales, but Morales does not steal only from customers and suppliers. Friends and business partners are fair game too. George Arias, the man who bailed Morales out after he was charged with burning Nicole O'Brien's SUV, filed criminal charges against Morales after discovering his credit had been damaged by identity theft. On April 26, 2006, after a lengthy investigation by Anne Arundel County Police, Morales was charged with 10 counts of relenting to identity theft. Strung together, the maximum sentence of all the charges totaled more than 78 years in prison. He served not a single day. On the day Morales was charged with the ID theft, he was already on probation for replacing the vehicle identification number on a 1997 Ford F-350 flatbed truck and had been stolen from A-Clap Construction in July 2003. According to court records, Morales pried off the VIN number from the stolen truck, in its place taped the VIN plate from a 1992 truck registered to his mother, according to police reports. When police stopped the truck, 2 of Morales' employees were in it, and the glove compartment was full of Mason's Unlimited business cards. Morales might have been sentenced to a maximum of 18 months in prison for the crime, but after multiple postponements of the case, he was sentenced in September 2004 to 2 years of probation. The case file indicates that he did not pay his probation fees. It is not clear why Morales wasn't jailed after he was charged with identity theft, which violated the terms of his probation. He was also criminally charged 3 times in Baltimore City while on probation for the truck theft case, and convicted of rinsing lead-laden brick washing sludge into the Chesapeake Bay. If he was on probation in Anne Arundel County and he committed a crime in Baltimore City, we would have no way of knowing this, says Kristen Fleckenstein, spokesperson for Anne Arundel County State's Attorneys. We could look it up, but there is no flag automatically sent out, no email. A spokesman for Baltimore City State's Attorney, Patricia Jessima, whose office has recently highlighted cases in which it jailed violent offenders on probation violation, says Morales' charges did not rate attention from the war room. After stealing George Arl's identity and using it to borrow $249,000 against the house he sold the next year for $345,000, Morales pleaded guilty to a single count of making a false entry in a public record. On September 21st, 2006, Anne Arundel County Circuit Court Judge Joseph Manick sentenced Morales to 12 months of unsupervised probation and fined him $500. Unsupervised means he's not under the control of the Division of Probation, so any violations will go unnoticed. Morales chose his victims well. Aries is currently serving a 5-year sentence in federal prison for conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute cocaine. Arl's lawyer said the drug charges, which were pending when Arl discovered the identity theft, complicated the case against Morales because the governments won't transport witnesses to testify in state court. George got arrested and unfortunately got sentenced before his case went to trial, says Joe Murtha, who defended Arl's in federal drug case. It's sort of awkward when someone is getting ready to go to prison and is a victim. Arl, who came up from Morales in Royal Park, who bailed Morales out of jail, even signed on to the commercial loan as a partner in Masons Unlimited. Murtha says he doesn't know the extent of the pair relationship. He does say that his client was worried that his credit rating would remain damaged long after his prison bid ends. He was concerned that this was something that was just going to linger, Murtha says. In the spring of 2005, Keisha Rice bought 8075 Woodhome Circle in a leafy Pasadena neighborhood of Capes and Ranches from Morales, then posing as Arls. She says after she found out whom Arls was, she took it upon herself to check every nook and cranny for drugs and found nothing. I had to go through the whole house, Rice says. I have kids in here, like many of whom who've dealt with him. However, her main gripe with Morales is his workmanship. A back window and a skylight in the house both leaked, she says, adding, "Don't get me wrong, I loved the house once I fixed it." Rice went to testify against Morales in the summer of 2006. The first court date was postponed. On the second go, he pleaded to a misdemeanor public records charge. He should have gone to jail for what he did to me, she says. My thing was, lock his butt up, cause he cost me money. Locking up Morales is no easy feat. Records filed in Glen Burnie District Court show Jane C. Morales, Jose Morales' wife from whom he is separated, has tried. In a complaint filed last Halloween seeking protection for herself and her 2 young sons, the former Jane Castronada reported that Jose Morales Jr. banged on the door of the home they shared in the 1432 Grim Road in Severn. When I let him in, he started screaming and yelling because I had a conversation via email with his girlfriend. I asked him to leave because he was scaring me. He said no. I called the police with the phone in my hand. He grabbed me, shoved me against the wall, told me don't F with him. He will kill me. He has threatened to kill me before, Jane Morales continued. Last year the police came to our home for domestic violence and could not make him leave, even though there was broken glass everywhere and a broken refrigerator and my children were screaming and scared. The judge granted the protective order barring Jose Morales from the home and from Jane's workplace at the Long and Foster BWI Fort Meade office at the Ritz Cabernet, a gentleman's club at 508 South Broadway, 5 blocks from Arizona Bar and Grill. Morales violated her order, according to a second complaint Jane filed on May 7, 2008. A month after Morales was arrested for assaulting her son at their Savannah home. He is coming and going as he pleases, she wrote. A few days ago, he said if he saved me out at night, he was going to hurt me. The judge ordered Morales to pay his wife $25,000 to vacate the home within 30 days. The Severn property, which Morales apparently ran much of his business during the past 2 years, is currently subject to foreclosure proceedings. On the afternoon of May 29th, Jane Morales, a petite woman with light brown hair, answered the front door and declines to talk to reporters about her husband. No, she said softly. I'm not getting involved with that. No. Warren Lumpkin started talking to police about Jose Morales Jr. crimes in the summer of 2006, phoning in anonymous tips about stolen scaffolding. He knows Morales has put the word out that he's a snitch, but he doesn't care, he says. Lumpkin says he never would have talked if Morales hadn't told the police that he, Lumpkin, stole the items he hadn't taken. Lumpkin, who turned 30 last month, grew up with Morales in Morrow Park. We all stole, he acknowledged, of their teenage years together. Kids steal, you're supposed to grow out of it. In a long interview on April 15th, Lumpkin says he sold drugs until he was 17 or 18. When his girl got pregnant, he knew he had to give that life up, but court records listed some 20 criminal arrests between 1996 and 2007 when Lumpkin was placed on probation for drug possession. Lumpkin's criminal record includes several arrests for assault and racial harassment, and a 2010 murder charge which was dropped. Lumpkin says he worked for 9 years at the Simpson Industry plant in Catonsville, and he lost his job when it was burned down in 2003. He says he was hard up for work when he signed on to Morales' contracting crew in early 2005. I knew his MO. He was about making money, Lumpkin says. I was kind of fond of him. During Lumpkin's time on Morales' crew, Morales was charged with passing bad checks and with theft, and Mason Unlimited was convicted of water pollution. The group also collapsed 3 adjoining row houses on South Hanover Street. Lumpkin recalls feverishly shoring up 906 and 907 South Hanover after the outside walls buckled. He says the building gave way after Arl Long dug too deep with a bobcat during a basement underpinning job at 908. Jose told him it was too deep, Lumpkin recalls. Raw was in there stamping the ground saying, "Look, it's solid." For $12 an hour, Lumpkin worked jobs at 234 South Chester Street and 2814 Fleet Street. He says and tolerated Morales' habits of becoming scarce on payday. He says he fell out with Morales after declining to take part in July 2006 scaffolding heist. When I told him I wasn't in, he started treating me like an a-hole. Stealing equipment for a job was standard operation procedure at AB&R Construction and Mason Unlimited, Lipkin contends. When caught, a rare occurrence, Morales would instruct a crew member, Long usually, Lumpkin says, to take the rat and then maybe pay restitution or buy the machine in question. Given Morales' experience in Baltimore City, stealing may have been more sense than renting or buying, especially when it came to earth-moving equipment. Police records say that in November 2005, Morales stole a skid loader owned by Auburn Tractor Company from a Baltimore County job site, and in August 2006 stole a skid loader elevator worth $75,000 each from Bettinger Contractor in Anne Arundel. One of any of these thefts, Morales could have been sent to prison for 15 years or more. Bettinger Contractor owner Frank Bettinger says he found his machine in Morales' job site at 1325 Towson Street in South Baltimore, and that a helpful Baltimore police advised him to just take the machine back. The charges in the case were later postponed indefinitely for lack of evidence. Compared to skid loaders and trucks, stealing scaffoldings was child's play. Lumpkin says scaffolding don't have serial numbers on it, he explains. Morales knew he can get away with it. Morales bid a lot of contracting jobs, often juggling 2 or 3 at a time, but the stolen equipment wasn't always meant to aid in their completion, Lumpkin says. It was sometimes a prop to dupe customers. We set up the scaffolding to get the first 1/3 payment, Lumpkin says. Half the time, he'd take it down the next day and abandon the job. On July 5, 2006, working in the rain, members of Morales' crew took 8 hours disassembling a $30,000 scaffold at 1465 Key Highway, Lumpkin says, rebuilding part of it at 234 South Chester Street. Police received an anonymous tip about the pending theft but did not swing by the crime scene, where they might have caught the thieves in act. Over July and August, Lumpkin and Morales argued over Lumpkin's pay and over a cell phone Morales had given his workers. On September 12, 2006, Lumpkin called in another tip, this one to get Baltimore Regional Auto Theft Team known as RAT. Police seized some of the hot scaffolding from the various Morales job sites, and Lumpkin says Morales blamed him for the theft. The cops started to trust Lumpkin's version of events after he told them about the anonymous tips charging documents indicate. The RAT investigation ground on for months, with mainly Baltimore County Police Detective Steve Sutherland and Baltimore City Police Detective D.R. Fields bird dodging Morales' crew, questioning them, arresting them, watching them. Lumpkin says he quit Morales' crew in the fall of 2006 and that Morales withheld his last week's pay. A couple months later, Morales allegedly attacked Lumpkin with a baseball bat at a Milltown job site. Morales was charged with assault, and that case is still pending jury trial. Thanks in part to Lumpkin's cooperation, Morales was arrested on February 1st and February 15, 2007, charged with scaffolding theft and taking an Auburn skid loader. Lumpkin agreed to testify in those cases, and then since has taken days off from work to do so at least 5 times. On every date, postponements came at defense attorney Stanley Needleman's request. The multiplying court dates presented a stage for further drama. Where's my money? An unhappy customer demanded Morales outside courtroom 2 at South Baltimore District Court on Patapsco Avenue last July. Morales was there on still pending theft and assault charges. The unhappy customer was there to confront Morales. You got my money. You was in a contract and you held the work up, Morales replied calmly. You're a effing liar, the man yelled as a bailiff rushed to order the man from the building. You took $16,000 of my money and walked away. After the day's postponement, Lumpkins contends Morales and his girlfriend Tiffany Frey chased him in separate cars and boxed him in the intersection of Patasco Avenue and Annapolis Road, where Morales threatened to again kill him. It's BS, Morales said after a hearing on the matter last August. Why would I wait for him to come to court before going after him? Morales claimed. Lumpkin concocted the story in order to extort money. He wants $15,000 to make this all go away, Morales said. This case and the other cases. Morales told a reporter he intended to pay. Wouldn't you? I spent more than that on bail. Lumpkin did not make the court date, and the assault charge against both Morales and Frey were null pros. Last October, Lumpkin denies asking Morales to pay him, accepting the $500 he says he's owed for work. He continues to come to court, usually waiting hours in a holding room before being informed of the latest postponement. On April 17, 2008, he takes a late morning break on Calvert Street Island, separating the east and west downtown circuit court buildings. Flicking his cigarette button to the street, he predicts Morales' days of freedom are numbered. You can't take everybody's money, live like a king, and expect no consequences. Jose Morales Jr. apparently thinks he can, now that Arl Long is dead. Co-defendants ain't around no more, he says without emotion, standing in front of the courthouse before his April 17th postponement. A few days later, a 4-page state supplement disclosure signed by Detective Phil and Sutherland made its way into Morales' case file, describing a March 11, 2008 meeting of Long, his attorney Alex B. Leckers, assistant attorney Katie O'Hara, and the detective regarding the scaffolding theft. During the meeting, the document says Long admitted to his part in the case. He stole approximately $30,000 worth of scaffolding from Key Highway job site and delivered it to Morales. Long told police that he had took scaffolding under Morales' direction, used Morales' dump truck, and that Morales paid him to do it. He said that some of the scaffolding he stole was never recovered and was stored in the back of Morales' home in Severn, where police saw it a few days later, stacked behind a fence. A few days later, police searched the house, seizing the scaffolding and other evidence. Sitting outside the courtroom on April 17th, Morales asks if none of it happened. He tells the reporter that his cases have all been dismissed, right before they merely postponed for another 6 weeks. Riding the elevator down afterwards, Morales smirked when asked why he had just lied. I must have been mistaken, he says. Then he thinks of something more clever. They're going to know it, Jose Morales predicts. They just don't know it yet. Jose Morales is probably one of the worst guys that you can ever meet in life. Cutthroat, conniving, untrustworthy. A typical snake. Did y'all listen to some of the things that he was involved in? From writing bad checks to stealing. And with all these arrests, for some reason, you can make your own conclusion, they never decided to arrest this guy. Ultimately, which led to the death of Arl Long. And when it come down to the Arl Long thing and the tags all over the city, if this is indeed the case, I think the people that understand Arl Long understand exactly what it means. You know, these Arl Long tags probably is not for everybody to understand, but for the people that's getting it, they got it. You understand? They know exactly what Arl Long means, because Arl Long is a symbol of something. It's a symbol of something. And he's a symbol of when a system fails, or when the system works how it's supposed to work. Because there was so many signs way before Arl Long murder that Jose Morales was supposed to be in prison. Did y'all hear some of the breaks that he was getting? You talking about charges being dropped after 3 days. Rock solid cases from the article. You understand? But I told y'all he had a connection to another attorney. And I'm going to get to that in a second. Because Jose Morales wasn't the only one locked up for Arl Long murder. He actually incorporated someone else for the murder. And this guy ultimately pled guilty. Court life in prison. As well as Jose Morales. Court life in prison. But there was a snitch that was in the jail at the same time when Jose Morales was fighting these cases. And he got him touched from inside of the jail. Hit him with a lock and sock and batteries. Like, this is a guy, y'all, that had a lot of pull. And he was getting things done, as you can see. If you listen to the fear that he placed in the community, nobody even wanted to talk about this guy. Not ex-wives, not ex-girlfriends, not ex-friends, you know. They stand completely away from him. But for 5 years, Baltimore City Police arrested the wrong person for the murder of Arl Long.
Feeling happier than when I came in.
You had a chance to kind of confront the prosecutor who wrongly put you away. How did that feel?
He know he was wrong, and he wasn't even a real man to even come to me and say, you know, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. We human, we make mistakes, so that's all he had to do from the beginning.
I'm very happy that the sentence was modified. I'm very happy that there was some recognition that the facts did not support this this conviction. Demetrius has been living with this for many years. He served almost 5 years in maximum security jail, all for crimes that he didn't commit. So there's a little bittersweetness to getting to this point. I'm happy we're here though.
So Michelle Nethercott was your original innocence attorney.
Yeah, my lawyer.
It's a long day coming for you too.
Yes. Unfortunately, in the grand scheme of things, I know Demetrius hates to hear this, but unfortunately, many of my clients have been incarcerated for much longer periods of time. He's negotiated a lot of obstacles, and so I'm proud of him because he's kept his head high and worked and done the right thing. And I'm proud of you, Demetrius.
Thank you.
Are you going to celebrate today?
It's a regular day. I'm just happy.
Yeah, you do have to go back to work.
Yeah. So I'm ready to go back to work.
Now, I don't know if this was a cover-up or a mistake or the system is working exactly how they want it to work. You be the judge to that. But Arl Long, I told y'all, cutthroat, conniving, envy. And y'all heard about his lawyer, you know. He employed Stanley Needleman. And that's how this whole video started. It started off with me ready looking at Kenneth Revenue until I got a comment talking about Stanley Needleman. I'm like, yo, I didn't even know he was arrested. So I started walking down this Stanley Needleman path and bumped across Arl Long. It was wild how it happened. But Stanley Needleman investigation started because Tony Morales got caught. Y'all heard in the article where Stanley Needleman bailed Jose Morales out on a $30,000 bond? Well, Jose Morales had to pay that back. And the way he tried to pay that back was to go to Texas and try to bring back 6 keys. Got arrested during the transaction or during the ordeal. And he didn't have that, look like, influence to me in Texas, so he had to do something. So what he tried to do was say that Stanley Needleman was a dirty lawyer. So what Stanley Needleman did was, and I told y'all you can't find no pictures of Stanley Needleman. It's like they disgraced him, disbarred him, and wiped him out of history. But what Stanley Needleman decided to do was admit that Jose Morales told him exactly what happened with Rob Long, and he put money on Rob Long. So that's how Stanley Needleman got that year in the day when he was arrested for over $1 million worth of stolen money. Well, not stolen money, but tax fraud. And Jose Morales ended up getting found guilty. I think they gave him 2 life sentences, or at least 1 life sentence for the murder of Rob Long. But this is a wild story. But when it comes down to Rob Long, or Arl Long, as we all see on everything in the city, I think for the people that need to know what this means, I think they get it. I think they understand it well. Let me know how y'all feel about this in the comments, man. Do y'all even think this is the Arl Long that is all over the city? Is Arl Long even a person? You know, somebody made this up and just decided to write it all over the city, and then it's just, you know, it's a whole bunch of copycats. Let me know in the comments, man. But I tell you this, This is a very intriguing story, and I appreciate everybody that watched it to the end, because if you watched it to the end, hopefully we came to the same conclusion about what actually went down here and the relevance of Arl Long. Because I think if Jose Morales was took off the streets, you talking about, y'all, he had charges where he was facing 75 years. He was getting locked up on probation. The man he did more than 2 years in prison with over 20 convictions, 20 cases, non-processed, thrown out. Let me know in the comments, man. It's another day. Keep it G News, and I'm out.
Nigga can't do what I do, y'all niggas can't copy me. Let's keep shit G. Let's keep shit G. Let's keep the shit G. Let's keep shit G. Let's keep shit G.